It started out in January when teenagers were stabbed at Meadow Hall in England by members of the Religion of Peace. Next, the Supreme Court of the United States ruled that the Justice Department had been misapplying the law against January 6 defendants. Some were immediately released as a result. Then Texas went up against the federal government with regard to the border wall. Drag queens desecrated St. Patrick's Cathedral because the church had been stupid enough to hold a funeral for an unrepentant drag queen prostitute, and all of his friends came. A man destroyed a satanic altar in the Iowa State Capitol building, beheading it. The Fitzwilliam Museum in Britain added warning labels next to landscapes because they might make you feel nationalistic, which is basically racism. Is this making you racist? How about this one? The Cass Review was released because somehow we needed a study to tell us that giving hormones to children is a bad idea. As a result, the National Health Service rolled back its policy of mutilating and sterilizing children. A Catholic NFL player caused outrage by sounding very Catholic at a Catholic college commencement speech. He thanked God for his successes and his wife for being willing to stay home and raise their kids. Scary stuff. A transgender hermit who works in theater, yes, you heard that right, was outed, and unsurprisingly she lives in the diocese of the most pro-LGBT bishop in the nation. Yes, she's a she. She just really wants to be a he, and all of her attempts have left her looking like a homosexual man who is heart attack adjacent. A white man who argued that abortion is bad for black women was banned from a scientific journal for being racist, because you have to be in favor of aborting black babies to be anti-racist. Keep up, bigot. The Biden administration dedicated Easter Sunday to Trans Day of Visibility, in case you somehow hadn't noticed their flamboyant degeneracy. Now they're really visible. Richard Dawkins, author of The God Delusion and avowed atheist, announced that he wants to live in a Christian culture. So he doesn't believe in or want to worship God, but he has come to the conclusion that it's really important that you do, for his safety and all. A giant IUD traveled from Washington, D.C. to Tampa, popping up in major cities. But really, they totally don't hate children or worship death. President Trump was shot on stage, an impossibility given how leftists are always peaceful. He not only survived by a providential move of his head, but raised his fist in what has to be one of the most iconic moments of our age. England descended into riots in July after the mass stabbing of English children by a Muslim terrorist. Rioters were condemned as racists who were fueled by misinformation. In October, it was quietly released that the attacker had been studying an Al-Qaeda training manual, and it was a terrorist attack after all. Shocking. They tried to scare everyone about monkeypox in 2024, but nobody cared because it only affected practicing homosexuals. For some reason, though, there wasn't any move to shut down gay bars. The Supreme Court of the United States stopped Biden from nullifying Title IX by redefining sex to include gender identity. Yale Divinity School had new students recite a spell at the start of their studies, showing that Yale is probably not your best bet if you're looking for Christian theology. New York police faced protests and hysteria for cracking down on prostitution and drug abuse on Roosevelt Avenue, because apparently the compassionate thing to do is allow drug addicts to overdose in between selling their bodies so they can feed their addictions. President Trump was elected. Joe Biden pardoned his son Hunter of any crimes in a 10-year time span. Then he commuted the sentences of dozens of death row inmates, so maybe we won't think that he's nepotistic, but more broadly unjust. After heroically intervening on a New York subway to restrain a violent passenger, Daniel Penny was eventually acquitted of the dangerous man's murder. Further court rulings on the Justice Department's strategy against the January 6 political prisoners resulted in the immediate release of Proud Boy leaders Nick DiCarlo and Nicholas Oakes. An illegal alien set a woman on fire on the subway on the same day that New York Governor Kathy Hochul declared the subway safe. Bystanders got out their phones and filmed the woman burning. I'll see you in 2025.